Okay, so in this program, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some different things that vectors are able to do. So before you move ahead, what you should do is include the vector and time library, so you can pause the video and do that. And then also this menu here, which will display all of the choices that the user can pick from when they're selecting what they want to do with their vector. Okay, so we'll get started in the main program. Of course, this is going to use some random numbers, so we're going to put our srand time null line. Now, for different elements that we need, we're going to have a vector of numbers here. So this is going to be the numbers that we'll be using for these different functions, so you can see what they do. We're going to make another one too, just to show you that you can do this. We're going to store numbers, the original version that we create at the beginning of the program, in a separate vector named original, just so that we can kind of have a backup. The user is going to make a choice from the menu, so this is going to be our menu choice. The user is sometimes going to have to pick where a particular element will go, so this one's going to kind of act like a location, and we'll also have a range in case we need to erase a range of elements, and that'll help us pick that. So what we're going to do is our loading the vector with random elements is going to be a little bit different than the way that we did it with arrays, because currently the vector has no positions in it. It doesn't have anywhere to store things, although some people like this a lot better. We're going to put in 5 random values. So I is less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. And then here's what we're going to do is we're going to put 5 elements onto the end of the array and grow it by 1 element every time we go through this. So numbers dot pushback a random number that'll be from 1 to 100, so modulus 100 plus 1. And what's going to happen is every time it goes through the loop, a new random number is going to be put as the last element of the array. Sorry, vector. Now what we'll do to store it, this is pretty handy. We can create a line of code that will be original is going to become equal to numbers. So in this case, what it does is it takes the entire numbers array and drops it into original. So original was previously empty. Now it contains all of the numbers from the numbers vector. So now what we want to do is we're going to output our list of numbers. So cout, let's get a number list going here. And we'll use a for loop to, of course, traverse the array. Int I equals 0, while I is less than numbers dot size I plus plus. And then what we'll do is we'll cout numbers I and end out. Okay, so what we're going to get, and we'll run this just to verify, is we get our vector with 5 random elements. The next thing that we're going to do is we'll be using our menu to have the user pick what they want to do, and we'll keep this going. So we're going to put all of this in a loop. We're going to do while the choice does not equal 0. So they'll be able to keep picking from the menu until they select a 0. So here's a good place to display our menu. Of course, we'll use the function for that. If you missed it, you can back up the video and see what that was. And then we're going to prompt them for their choice here. So choice. And we'll cin choice. Okay. And just to put a little bit of spacer here, we'll also put an end L. Okay, there we go. We've got our menu displayed. Let's run it just to verify that things are working. What you should get is this menu whenever you pick something. So say I want 5, that hasn't been created yet. It'll do its activity and then return to the menu. When I finally hit 0, it will finish the program. Okay, so now all of my choices. So one at a time, we're going to include all of the things that will be happening in the menu. So the first one is going to simply be to, again, display elements. So in this, we've already got this, so I am going to be just selecting, we'll do a copy paste. So if the choice equals 1, then we'll do this, and I'm just going to fix the tabbing for this, of course, so that it lines up properly. Always make sure that you do that when you're copying and pasting an element from another part of your program. Okay, number 2 is going to be to add an element at the end. So I'm going to copy paste here just so I can put this in the comment. Number 2 is going to be add an element at the end. So if choice equals 2, this should be an else, so it'll be a little bit more efficient. So otherwise, if the choice was 2, we're going to do a numbers dot pushback, just like we did before, random modulus 100 plus 1, and that's how we're going to do that. Now, number 2 is add an element. Number 3 is remove the last element. So number 3 up here is going to be remove the last element, and here's how that is going to work. Else if the choice is 3, we're not going to do numbers dot pushback. We're going to do numbers dot popback, and this receives no arguments from the main program. So popback is going to remove the last element. So just to show you that in action, we've got our elements. Notice the last one is 92. I'm going to add an element and display it. So now we've got a 38 following the 92. And then if I remove the last element and then display it again, we're back to 92. So pushing and popping are important for the end there. Whoops, I'll stop that. Okay, number 4 is erase element. So this is different from doing something at the end. We're going to pick an element somewhere within the in the vector. So else if choice equals 4. Then what we're going to do is we'll prompt the user for which element to get rid of. Cout which element do you want to erase? There we go. And we'll see in our element value here. Okay, now this is where things are a little bit different. We're going to be using a different type of object as an argument. So we're going to do numbers.erase. So there is a function built in here for erasing an element, but it doesn't work quite the way you think that it would. So you would think, okay, let's put in element and it'll erase the whatever we have in that position. So if I run this, we're going to get an error because it is not able to receive an integer. So what happens is we get an item here called an iterator. So the argument that is being passed to the function is called an iterator. And what that is, it's kind of like a pointer to an array element. So even though they're vectors, it's still kind of array. So what we need to do is we need to create something here that will point to a particular element in the array. So vectors actually have something built in for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in numbers.begin. This returns a pointer that points to the first element in the numbers array. So it's an iterator is the technical term for this that points to the first element. But we don't want to eliminate the first element. We want to eliminate this one. So what we can do is we can actually add an integer to it to shift where the pointer is pointing. So if I add on element, if the user enters like a 3, what it's going to do is it's going to start at the beginning and then move along the vector 3 positions, and then it finds the element that it wants to erase. So if I run this, and we'll be able to see this. We've got 89, 85, 92, 96, and 10. So what I want to do is I want to erase this 85. So that is in position 1. So here's how I do this. I pick 4, and then I want to erase the element in position 1. Now if I display it again, you can see that that element is no longer part of the array. So it doesn't give you a 0 there, it collapses the array so that it only has that many positions. Okay, moving on, we're going to do number 5. Oops, gotta remember to stop it here. Number 5 is insert. So I'm going to say where do you want the element inserted? I'm starting to regret my copy paste here. Okay, so we're going to use element, and you may have guessed it, we're going to be using not erase, but insert. So the way that this works is we're still referring to this pointer as the location, but what we now have to do is we have to tell it what is actually going to be inserted. So this receives 2 arguments. One is the iterator for where it is going to be located. We put a comma, and then we put what is going to be placed there. So I'm going to do my random number from 1 to 100. Oops. And that's going to work for that one. Now number 5. No, I already did number 5. Sorry, I'm getting confused. So insert here should be 5, and then insert element. There we go, that's better. Number 6 is going to be to erase a range. So for this one, I am going to just grab the erase portion, and I'll make a little adjustment. So if the choice is 6, it will say let's say, what is the first element to erase? And then I'm going to store that in element. I'll do a little copy paste here. So we're going to go from that, then we're going to move to what is the last element to erase. And then here we're going to use our range value. So what we have to do is we have to go from where we want to begin erasing to where we want to end. And this doesn't work exactly the way that you would think. So we're going from numbers.begin plus element to numbers.begin plus range. But you're going to find that it doesn't do what you want. So imagine I want to remove the middle 3. Oh, what is my error here? Number begin plus range. Oh, that doesn't have, that's not a function. What am I doing? Okay. And I just erased my end parentheses. That's better. Okay, so let's take a look. I've got 25, 99, 95, 53, 42, and what I want to eliminate are the middle three elements. So if you imagine this, I want to go to 6, and I want to get from position 1 to position 3 removed. So I'm going to go from position 1 to position 3. So let's see what we get. I'll display the elements again. So unfortunately, I have 25, 53, and 42. 25, 53, 42. It did not include element 3. So what you have to watch out for is this is will only refer to eliminating everything before this. So here I've got to put in a +1, and then it will go from the element, the beginning element that I want removed, to and includes the second element that I want removed. So now we'll go to 7, which is going to be inserting the original. So we're going to insert the original array somewhere in the second one. So this is number 7. Inserting the original. So we're going to go else if choice equals 7. Then what we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user for where they want it inserted, and we'll adapt the original insert for that. Okay, so where do you want the vector instead of element inserted? We'll go original vector inserted. So they'll pick here. Now, when we're inserting, what we're going to do is we have to start from this position, but then what we have to do is we have to say what it is that we are inserting. So instead of this, we're going to put original dot begin, because we're going to use begin to point to the beginning of original, and then we want everything from the beginning of original to the end of original. So original dot end, and that will accomplish our task. The last one is reverting it. So else if choice equals 8, then what we can do is our numbers will become original, and it will revert everything to the way it was. So what you should do is practice with these different functions, try and figure out what they do, because we're going to try to apply these in a bunch of different scenarios in future programs.